Hi everybody and welcome to DFA's first online event for 2020. What I'd like to go through today is one of our relatively new projects, and here it is on the screen. It's called Generating AgTech Capacity to Increase High Yielding Dried Grape Production. Yeah, okay, that title is just a bit long. 10 Tonne Project. That sounds a lot better. A little bit more what it says it is on the box. So what's in the project? First thing to recognise is that this project's a 3-year project and it's funded through the Australian Government and through the Murray-Darling Basin Economic Development Plan. The guts of the project is 4 demonstration sites aiming to produce 10 tonnes per hectare. So let's have a quick look at those sites. The first 2 are down here in Colignan. This one, a relatively new site of Salma peat, and that's looking quite promising. Next door is probably the opposite story. It's an older sun muscat patch, probably struggling a little bit, and look, it mightn't make 10 tonnes per hectare. The challenge here is to see how much we can build this site up. Up here in Red Cliffs, on the other hand, is a site, sun muscat again, that has been bumping along at pretty close to 10 tonnes per hectare for a number of years. The challenge here really is about saying, how can we keep this producing at the level that it's at? And meanwhile, over here in Merbein, we've got a relatively new small patch of sun glow, and it's coming up to probably producing that 10 tonne per hectare. So as well as the sites, we've got a range of monitoring equipment and advice for the managers running these sites. So the advice comes in the form of a group of current growers, ex-growers, researchers and viticultural consultants to help just provide a little bit of extra advice to these guys to help push this 10 tonne per hectare target. We try and get out there once a month during the growing season, have a bit of a look around and have a bit of a chat with the managers that are running these properties. The other side of the story is this monitoring equipment. We'll have a quick look in here. So each site has got a monitoring station, and you can see the information that we collect there, rainfall, temperature, humidity, soil moistures at different depths. Admittedly, that is only one probe per site, but we spent a bit of time making sure that it was in a representative spot. The other stuff that's measured in canopy is that leaf wetness. We've also got irrigation line pressure monitors as well that'll sort of tell us when people are irrigating. This information can be quite complex. So what I've done here is put on the one graph the information that's coming out of one of those monitoring stations. It's a bit complex, I know, but I'll just take you through it. This red wriggly line, that is the daily temperature. Actually, it's measured every 15 minutes. You can see you've got to read it over on this scale over here. So it runs from 42 odd down to about 8 degrees. The other bit is rainfall, which is right down here. Again, you read it over here, and it doesn't look very much, but remembering that these are every 15 minutes. So that patch in there represents about 14 mils in 24 hours. These things here, these green dotty bits, are the irrigation events, actually when irrigation occurred as measured by those inline pressure probes. And then up here are the standard soil moisture curves that people are pretty used to seeing. So the story is fairly simple. You apply irrigation here, soil moisture goes from, 29% up to about 32%. And then the plant slowly uses it. And in this case, it's watering about every fortnight. More of a functional issue about how to manage irrigation on a full coverage sprinkler, undervine sprinkler system. You can see over here, this is the last irrigation applied for the season, and then the vines are cut. Obviously can't, with sprinklers, apply water after the grapes are cut because you want them to dry out. and you can see generally that the whole profile is drying out except for that rainfall event which occurred after cutting and pushed particularly the 10 centimetre probe, made it wetter, and the 20 centimetre probe too. So remembering that these are at 10 centimetre depth, 20 centimetre depth, 30, 40, 60 and 80. So the other thing to notice on these are the little lumps that are in here, and I think as most people know that's just the daily variation in plant water use out of the soil. So it's a good indication that plant roots are in that depth. So certainly plant roots at 10, 20, 30, 40, perhaps 60, but you'd have to question whether they're actually down at 80. It just sort of tops up a bit when it's irrigated, and then maybe this is just draining away. So perhaps that's a leaching fraction. The other bit that the monitoring stations contribute to is this disease modelling. So now that we've got those 3 stations set up, one at Merbein, one at Red Cliffs and one down at Colignan, we've got a reasonable coverage across the region, and we can run some of the grow care disease modelling that Peter McGarry has talked to us about previously. So that will be up and running in this coming season. So that will be useful to see what it tells us, not only for these sites, but for the whole industry as well. The other bit of kit that we're playing with in this project is satellite-based NDVI. Essentially, this is infrared photography tricked up to look at how actively plants are growing. So here's some information from the IRISAT program that's freely available. So it's showing the NDVI for this patch. This is our Red Cliffs patch in here for these dates in last season. So NDVI works from, in this case, from the brown where not much is growing through to the really dark greens where a lot's growing. So you can see here, this is growing quite vigorously. That's sun muscat, and this patch here is a really vigorous patch of Sultana on Ramsay with a huge canopy on it. So let's have a look as it goes through the season. So the next weekly block, funnily enough, this is about as it was cut and the water turned off for that drying season. And you can see that these Sultanas were probably cut first and have started to dry out, hence the change in colour. The sun muscats are also starting to dry out and essentially not grow as much, so the change in colour. And then the next one, later in the season, you can see that it's just growing less. For those of you that have got an eagle eye, you might wonder where this one's come from. I did too. I now realise that the next door neighbour in here grow melons, and I suspect that there's probably a crop planted in here, starting to take off here, and really has done some amazing stuff and taking off here. That's what I think's happened with that anyway. So that's something we'll use throughout this project, get used to it and try and understand how it can bring better decision making for the growers that have got access to it. So what else is in the project? Well, we were going to have site visits. So really we should have gone down and had a look at each of these sites. But instead, I've done this. So here is the Selma Peat site. Now this has had the crop taken off it, so no crop for this season. The major issue there was it was young and it still hadn't filled in all of the cordon. So the decision was taken to remove the crop and allow the cordon to really get established. And I think now we can start to see the benefit of that in that cordon coming together, and that'll stand this in good stead for this year and future years. Here is the sun muscat patch that's right next door. I said this was an old patch, it's had a tough time. The challenge in here is about how much we can bring this back up to and how many canes are left there for next year. So this will be, wait and see what happens with this one. Here we've got the Red Cliffs sun muscat patch. As I said, this one's been producing pretty well for quite a significant number of years, and you can see in here, this is a pretty consistent, pretty heavy crop in here. And over here at Merbein, we've got the sun glow patch that I mentioned. Again, this one's looking pretty consistent. Looks like a pretty sound crop in there. Look closely, you can see some of the sunburn issues that occurred earlier this year. So that's a bit of a look at the sites. The other stuff that's going to happen in this project is the technology that we've brought to the project we thought would be useful for people to have a few sessions to try and understand. So we'll be running seminars for the whole industry on using that IRISAT and NDVI. Agriculture Victoria will be helping us deliver that one. We'll run a session on getting the most out of the green brain soil moisture monitoring systems that we're using, but really that'll provide information for anybody that wants to catch up on their soil moisture monitoring and how to get the best out of it. And of course we'll have another session on using that disease prediction information from Peter McGarry. We've already run one session late last year, and we'll once we've got it up and running, we'll run another one so you can actually start to play with it and see what it's telling us. And then after harvest, we'll get back to you with more details on the performance of each of these sites that we've just had a quick look at today. Might be a similar sort of session. We'll just have to play that one by ear. So finally, it's just thanks to all of those that have provided advice to the project. I'm no technical expert, so the value of these people to the project has been huge. Everybody's provided their time, and I appreciate the effort that they have put in. Oh yeah, one final thing. Normally at this point I'd be standing in front of a barbecue trading evaluation sheets for a sausage. Can't do that, so any chance you could just give our online evaluation just a bit of a trial, please? Anyway, good to talk to you all, and catch you around. Bye.